Awesome. Uh, Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here again and for the consistent attendance and engagement. We're very happy you're here. We're almost at the end, last day tomorrow. But today we are led by your mentors. They're going to do a whole bunch of activities today that will hopefully get you closer to thinking about your own action plan for mainstreaming participation in your context. And so today we have two sessions on building and communicating the value proposition for your program, and also stakeholder mapping and building coalitions for your project. So I'm looking forward to both the sessions, and I'm going to hand it over to our experts to start us off. Aman?
Thank you very much, Melissa. Sorry, I forgot to turn on my. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending this session. My name is Ahmad Rifai. I'm from Kota Kita Foundation in Indonesia. So for today's session, I think what we would like to kind of share is we want to bring some kind of presentation around building a value proposition for mainstreaming participation, whether this is in the context of your community, your government, or even broader stakeholder. I would like to start with a small disclaimer. So this kind of what is experience that I will share are based on our kind of context specific insight, I think, what I can say, mainly drawn from our journey in mainstreaming participation through participatory budgeting in Indonesia. As such, some aspects may be highly contextual and may not fully align with or apply to realities in your own location. So your active participation may also enrich the knowledge sharing in this session today. So the next slide, please. So the objective, if you can see from this kind of slide, you can see that we want to actually bring a collective exercise together with you as well on building value proposition for your key stakeholder and why mainstreaming participation is valuable and essential. Next slide. This is like very kind of rough kind of agenda that we will go through. It's a very short kind of session. In 1 hour, we will deliver this each session accordingly. Next slide. So we will start with icebreaker for sure. This is going to be very interesting. But the icebreaker will start by asking you to kind of think of one key stakeholder that will be involved in your mainstreaming participatory democracy project. And now you can kind of start thinking about describing the stakeholder in just one word, a word that reflects how you see them and how they act. For example, if you want to say like, oh, my stakeholder youth, or it's hopeful. So for example, my stakeholder would be like grassroots kind of societies, for example, like that. How you describe that, or like government slows, for example. So we can start now, and like you can write down your kind of word in the chat, and we can see that later. Please start. Is anyone what is your stakeholder? Distrustful, connected, and then who else? Okay, confused. Okay, mutual interest, government, bureaucratic, expert, knowledgeable. Okay, I would like to invite maybe from Rodrigo, how you explain that media is erratic.
So I do think media tends to move in some many different ways. So sometimes it goes for the easy clickbait. Sometimes you find media that tries to do like a more a deep uh, job in terms of like investigative reporting. So I do tend to think that it's hard to if I wanna
Yeah,
like present a value proposition to media to how do you
yeah,
do it? Um,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, different contact in different country may be different media in my country or media in your country or media in some other part of the world. Okay, so who say community is skeptical? Betty,
Yes. So my
would you elaborate? Yeah.
yes. So when I say community is skeptical, is because they have dealt so much with projects that try to um, make them understand the government. But then, from where I'm from, uh, things are very politically influenced. So every time
Okay.
politics comes along, it shuffles everything around. So people don't really trust that there's anyone who has their best interest at heart.
Okay. That's happened in many places as well, in my community as well, in the many of the participatory project has run, but skeptical community also still happen quite sometimes. Okay, next we move to the next slide. Okay, so why we exercise that? Because I would like to deliver like some kind of message that to effectively mainstream participation, we, especially for my side, yeah, I'm from civil society actor, must tailor our value proposition based on who we speaking to and who that audience in turn influence, right? So is that understandable in that sense? So for example, if we say like civil society communicating it to the government, like say for example, in the context of this is that the goal is to influence policy, to kind of funding environments, say for example, or our adoption of participatory approach, say for example, our proposition may be focused on how we show how participation improve governance outcomes or better planning or reduce conflict or maybe to kind of to get more legitimacy. So for example, if we speak to the government, other examples, so for example, if we say that or from the perspective of civil society to general public, say for example, maybe the civil society organization, like I myself working for NGO, the goal is to mobilize public participation and then build awareness or even like to get more grassroots support to the context of proposition that we want to bring. The value proposition might focus on show people why and how their voices matter and what they gain from the participation. So, for example, I want to empower citizens to take a collective actions through accessible tools, storytelling, and participatory spaces, so for example, like that. Another example can be maybe like triple kind of, like three kind of stakeholder info. So for example, from civil society actor, and then influence general public, and general public influence the government. So for example, the goal is to build public support to create pressure from below in some of the experience. The value proposition that focus on the public may be to just get informed, organize, and advocate together, and your collective voice influence the decision maker. So we want to influence the public, and then the public collectively influence the decision maker. So that's how the proposition probably. So depending on how I just show you the diagram to get a sense which kind of target audience you wanna work with. So for example, next slide. So this is, I think, from the previous also presentation, yeah, from the previous process. But what we try to kind of say in here is that turning idea or turning innovation and participation into mainstream governance practices is sometimes difficult. I can say even difficult, yeah. Even when we can already identify and show promising result, it is still difficult. Despite widespread recognition of the value of participatory approaches, many efforts remain fragmented, short-lived, or confined to only pilot projects. This can be caused by different kind of situation. This list of situation maybe you're familiar. So for example, in my country, the issue is the status quo bias. So for example, existing system often resist change, favoring established top-down approach. Or in my context also, there is like elite domination, where people with power usually dominate the discussion, and it makes the process of participation hindered, for example. Or even insufficient political buy-in, where many decision makers see participation as costly, risky, or merely symbolic, so for example. Or even the sustainability issue, which sometimes also correlate with the government indifference. So for example, this bureaucratic inertia or lack of vision lead to a passive resistance or neglect from the government itself. So there are many problems depending on your context. I can see maybe different country will have different kind of circumstances in facing the issue around participation. Next slide. So then what we have to do then, we need a strong proposition or strong proposal. And what is this value proposition? Here we can explain that value proposition is a clear statement of the benefit. I think what we want to kind of deliver here, that you have to be able to state what is the benefit of your proposition and the value of your project or solution, and provide it to and explain it to your stakeholder. A strong value proposition can articulate how something address a particular need, solve the problem, and also deliver unique benefits, stuff like that. Next slide. Value proposition for mainstreaming participation in the context of participatory democracy. So for example, a value proposition can clearly articulate the specific benefit, advantages, and positive outcome that mainstreaming participatory democratic process provide to communities, institution, and government. And this is the key question that can guide you how then you can kind of set up your value proposition. Why is mainstreaming participation essential for democratic government, and what benefit or positive change arise when citizens directly engage in decision-making process? Next slide, please. This is some example, and again, this is very specific context that I experienced myself. So for example, in the context of Indonesia, civil society group proposed to the government a concept called village funds, which actually tried to kind of challenge the issues around limited funds in the village. Project implementation or participatory budgeting was unclear, and then also distrust to PB process in itself. So many villagers not come to PB processes because there is unclear kind of pathway to get funding of it. So this is the challenge, and the proposed solution would be dedicated national transfer for village and village autonomy to generate income in the village itself. And this is the benefit: increased number of the project in the village through PB, or more people attracted to participate in the village PB level participatory budgeting. Also, there is also some context of we propose green participatory budgeting in Semarang, Indonesia, where we propose to the government as well to dedicatively kind of conduct PB that allowing people to discuss only issues around climate change, so for example, that allowing channeling budget directly to green project. The other example, next slide, please, Maria. this is an old project that Kota Kita also have in the beginning of our establishment. It's called Mini Atlas Solo Kota Kita, which is actually we try to influence the government, and then the government convince the public to use this tool. So, for example, the challenge is that decreasing participation at the urban PB level, and then domination by elite in the proposal making processes, and also lack of information to guide the discussion in the PP process. But the proposed solution is creating platform of information and that information tool to be used to facilitate the PP discussion. So the benefits, for example, allowing better preparation before PP forum, data-driven decision-making, eliminate elite domination, better prioritization, informed and empowered citizen and participatory process. So I would challenge you, any other example from other country or from your own experience. So keep it in mind and use it as a kind of your reference, but feel free to kind of maybe share later on, maybe on your discussion with your team in the breakout session about your experience in some other context. Next slide, please. Now, what I really want to encourage is that, can you also identify possible benefit of your proposition or project proposal in the context of mainstreaming participation, and who will benefit from your proposal? Okay, so keep in mind again, this kind of identify possible benefit of your proposition, and then who will benefit from that proposition. Next. This is probably some idea, but maybe this is still high level, but you can go down deeper. What is the benefit that you can feel? And then you can express to say that this is your proposition. But in mainstreaming participation, there are some kind of ideas that this mainstreaming participation can increase legitimacy and trust when you communicate it to the government, for example, or improve decision-making quality when you talk to your parliament, and then empowered and engaged citizens if this you talk with the general public. So, for example, active participation build civic capacity, strengthen citizenship, blah, 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 blah. So I think there's a lot of good example that you can find. And I would like now to hand over to my colleague, Rizka, to maybe further elaborate how you can create your powerful and good kind of proposition. Please, Rizka.
Yes. Thank you, Rifai. Hi, everyone. My name is Rizka. I will just continue a little bit, a few more slides before we go to the collective work session. But this is basically just to sum up what Rifai has already explained earlier when we want to create a strong value proposition, particularly for mainstreaming participation. I think at first, the very first key elements is how we can define the problem and the solutions clearly, because being able to define the problem that we're trying to solve and the solution clearly will be the first articulation to the wider audience. And the clearer the problem that we define, the more easier the wider public could understand. And I think the most important part is the second point, where Rifai already explained earlier, is how we can tailor the benefits to the target stakeholders. So key tips here is for us to be able to put ourselves in their shoes. So we need to understand their point of view, trying to position ourselves in their position, and identifying what is their interest, why they would want to mainstream on the needs and their interests. And lastly, and I think in the context of Indonesia, it's very important to have a proof that the solution is going to work. And this could be from, precedent somewhere, perhaps this kind of solution is already implemented in other cases, in other contexts, although it's a different context, perhaps like the framework can work in our country and city, and or perhaps from the smaller pilot projects that we implemented before, or other civil society organization has implemented before, or if there's no precedent before, then simply we can explain what makes this solution unique to them to answer their challenges. Next slide, please. And this is perhaps just a very simple example from the our own experience in mainstreaming green participatory budgeting in one city in Indonesia, in Semarang. I'll speak about the on the second example. We have provided two examples here, but I'll share this the example from Semarang, which is a small city, not small city, but a capital of a province in Indonesia. And what we are trying to do there is as we know, climate is one of the big issue that archipelagic country face in Indonesia. And but climate action in the city level is often top down, and participation of citizens is often limited. But the citizens are the one that's facing the problem daily, but they're not involved in the decision making, particularly for the climate projects. So their involvement in the planning is quite limited. While at the same time, there's already, as Rifai already mentioned, there's already a participatory budgeting process, but it's not focusing on a particular issue. But for the city like Semarang, that is highly exposed to the climate risk, those kind of intervention is needed. And what is proposed by the civil society is to have some sort of mechanism that allows citizens to be participating in those kind of decision making in the city and the planning of the climate actions. And what was proposed then is how we propose the government to turn the participatory budgeting process into the green participatory budgeting process that offers the specific thematic allocation for the citizen to be able to involve in the planning and budgeting for climate actions. So that is tailored to the strengthen the climate actions in the community. Next. And then what we were trying to do as a civil society organization, trying to mainstream these climate actions to the government, is we try to see from the different point of view which one is from the government perspective, there's a lot of complaints about flood from the community, but at the same time they have limitation in implementing those kind of problem. So what we try to convey to them is why don't we try to cut the complaints about flooding and let the citizen be part of the solution and co-design the resilient neighborhood and try to decentralize the effort to build communities' resilience. So it's not only in your responsibility to tackle this issue, but this is also the community that can be involved in this process. And as for the citizens, because they're the one dealing with this climate problem, so the value proposition for them is more focusing on the how can the community then reduce the climate risk in their neighborhood by actively participating in this sort of citizen forum. So those kind of two different angles that we try to convey to both government and citizens. And this is, as Rifai mentioned, different stakeholders. For different stakeholders, we may convey different message, depends on what their responsibilities and depends on what their needs, depends on what's their interest. And next. Lastly, is the elements of proof. how we then tailor the story to them, and how we tailor the supporting messages. And for the Indonesian context, seeing a successful example or precedents is often important. So for the case of this green participatory budgeting in Semarang on the local level, we take a look at the Lisbon's green participatory budgeting and provide them with facts that this works somewhere else, and that's like a lot of climate projects, citizen proposed climate projects is increasing with more budget is allocated for that, and citizens are more involved, awareness on the climate issue is raised. So that's kind of message we need to convey to the government. And on top of that, if there's no precedence, of course we need to like put ourselves in their shoes and see what is their interest, and really convey what makes this solution unique. And in this case of Indonesia and the government of Semarang at the time, this kind of like innovation in the green participatory budgeting is relatively new and not implemented anywhere else. So this sort of if they mainstream this into their participatory budgeting process, it's going to be the first in Indonesia, for example. This kind of thing really convinced them to integrate them in the regulation. So finally, they mainstream it into local regulation, implementing those kind of like green infrastructure, integrating green infrastructure elements in the participatory budgeting process to tackle the climate challenges. So yeah, that's sort of like very, very humble example from our work, and hope that gives an element of like creating a strong value proposition. And I guess at the end we can tailor all of these benefits. So what we're trying to have in the next exercise is to identify who is the stakeholders, what are the benefits of mainstreaming for them in their perspective, which will help us to ensure the successful mainstreaming process. And with that, I hand over to Nia for the breakout
Yeah.
session.
Thank you, Rizka. So before we move to the individual exercise, I think it will be good to have a like quick and short Q&A session, as I noticed like a few people had their hands raised earlier. Perhaps we'll give like just one or two participants to ask question. But if not, then we can continue to the individual exercise, of course. Okay.
Sorry,
If there's no
what is the questions, please?
No, I mean if the participant has a question, you can ask in this session as well in this time, because I noticed that a few people also had a hand raised earlier, but if not, then we can continue to the individual exercise. Okay, if everything is clear, then perhaps we can back to the share screen. So after this, you'll be divided into 4 breakout rooms, and with each group supported by a facilitator to guide the discussion. But before we had this room, let me first walk through the individual tasks. Next slide, please. Next slide. The QR one. So please start by scanning the QR code on the screen, or you can simply click the mirror link that perhaps the admin already shared in the chat box. And once you've opened the board, take a few minutes to explore the following instruction. Previous slide, please. So there will be previous slide. Yeah, so there will be 3 boxes. The first one is the previous one. Melissa, please. The one that has 3 blocks. Yeah, there will be like 3 boxes there. The first one is you have to define the problem and the solution clearly. Like there's 2 main questions that you have to answer. The first one is what is the
what are the problem that you're trying to solve, and the second one is what are your proposed solution, and then the second box is about the stakeholder. So you have to identify one or two key stakeholder that you want to engage to mainstream the participatory democratic practices that you want to uh, address. And then the second one is what are the benefit of mainstreaming this initiative. And then in the third box, the same example previously, you'll be asked to share the successful example you've seen or describe what makes your proposed solution is unique. So basically, there are three main box, and each box has the question that you need to answer. So take your time to think it through, and if anything unclear, please feel free ask before we move into the breakout session, or you can ask within the breakout room to your facilitator as well. Is there any question? If not, then we can start to join in the breakout room and starting working on the individual exercise and discussion in the breakout room. Thank you.